Everybody, today's Thursday, November 8th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I'm Goze, that's George, that's Dan, and the voice you hear in your head is Danny Opers.
Demi.
Today we have Paul Felder and Phil Davis. Phil Davis fights for Bellator, formerly of the UFC, formerly a Division I NC2A wrestling champion.
Coming up 30.
Kevin, go ahead and break out the lotion as I give the accolades.
Oh, excellent.
Four-time All-American, wrestled for Penn State, and it was in 2008, I believe, when he took down his title. No, may have been earlier. Don't quote me on the actual year, but I know it was Penn State. And then Paul Felder, who calls fights for the UFC, but is also a lightweight. Hell, I think I'm starting to refer to him more as the analyst.
Coming up.
All right.
Stand by.
Yeah, we'll be right back. 10 seconds.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
All right, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goze. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goze.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goze, our East co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, producing like he always does, Danny Otto. What's up, fellas?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thursday, November 8th, getting closer to the weekend, getting closer to some fights. Yeah. And today's guests will be Phil Davis and Paul Felder. We mentioned that on the pre-show. If you're watching us via video, you may be thinking, what? I mean, there's an official start to the show, and that other stuff, we're just monkeying around, having a good time, a couple minutes every day. But more than anything, just to give you a little background, it's just so that we can make sure everything's tightened up over here on the production side and that we're ready to go. That way when we really start, we're not like, hey, wait a minute, so-and-so tripped over a cord. Phil Davis and Paul Felder will be our guests. Phil should be calling in pretty soon. He'll be fighting at Bellator 209, which takes place on November 15th. So it's right around the corner. In fact, they're all heading over to Israel for Bellator 209.
This is like their third time there?
I believe so. Yeah,
something like that, right?
I know one other, but yeah, they may be now up to 3. Patricio Frady, he's the champion. He'll be defending against Emmanuel Sanchez that night. That's your main event. Also, you got Ryan Couture featured on the main card. Phil Davis featured on the main card. Phil's got Vadim Nemkov. Ryan, I don't know who his opponent is. Haim Ghazali is his name. Cindy Dandois on the card, and Kirill Sadilnikov, who was known as Baby Fedor back in the day. I mean, that name goes back all the way to the Affliction days of 2007, 2008. Hoist Gracie's son, Connery Gracie, is on the show as well. Or sorry, on not our show, but on that show. So that goes down next week. But I know the guys are taking off pretty soon, and that's why we're working Phil in 1 week before fight week, and then this week is UFC Fight Night 139. In Denver, Colorado. If you haven't heard, Ray Borg is out of his fight versus Joseph Benavidez, and What that means, we don't know, because as of right now, there's only 3 flyweight bouts that are booked.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like the rumors are true that they will just dissolve that division and absorb some fighters into 135, into the bantamweight division, and others just, I think they'll be on their way. And who knows, maybe one championship has a bigger Grand Prix than we thought. Maybe they'll go 32 deep or 16 deep. Who knows what? We know Demetrius is heading that way. He signed as a free agent via a trade for Ben Askren. And speaking of one championship, sorry to just go from topic to topic, but I'm waiting for Phil. Miesha Tate is now the vice president at one championship. Congratulations to her, fellow colleague on Fight Nation Channel 93. In fact, yesterday, I was listening to Ryan McKinnell and Miesha Tate on their show, MMA Tonight. They do the Wednesday episodes. And Ryan was asking Miesha, hey, after the show, you're headed to Singapore. She said, yeah. What's going on over there? She was being a little coy. But what she did say was, I'm going to meet with Chatri Sityodtong, who's their CEO, and just see what he's got. You know, maybe it'd be interesting to work with them in some capacity. Well, unless she was on one of those Raptors that we see over there at Langley Air Base, there's no way she could have gotten there and already discussed and signed on to be their vice president. So this thing was already in the works.
Oh, yeah.
And I figure she must have just boarded the plane, or they must just be flying over L.A. when I read the announcement that she is their vice president. So congrats to her. But I thought that hand could have been played a little different. I would have said, well, Ryan, you know, I'd love to say it here on the show, but something is in the works with one championship. You'll be hearing something soon. The other one just sounded like, well, I want to shake his hand. I've always wanted to meet him, see what it's like.
You know what I think might have happened? I think maybe in saying that, maybe one was like, oh, we want to be the ones to say it, and they just put it out really quick.
Right.
You know, maybe,
I get that.
Maybe the plan was just...
Because I know she would want to break it on her own show, but the fact that she didn't, I just think, to anyone that was listening, it was like, well, okay, you're already the vice president. I mean, you're barely on your way there. Just maybe word that a little bit different.
Maybe.
Who cares? It's really not that big of a deal. The big deal is she's actually moving there. She said, I'm moving to Singapore. So she's a Vegas resident. She just had a daughter. Her boyfriend, they're not married, right, guys?
No.
Okay. Her boyfriend, Johnny Nunez, fights still. He just had a fight in Boise, Idaho, and trains at Extreme Couture. So I don't know. I don't know if that's an official move. It'd be great to have Miesha on the show soon to just kind of get those details. I don't see a mother being away from her daughter. She was asked about fighting. She said it would take a lot to get me out. And I just don't. She says, I've never fought for the money. I just don't have the desire right now.
Yeah, she's said that here before plenty of times where just, you know, the food, putting her body through all that stuff
and
again,
now the kid.
Injuries.
You have to separate yourself from the kid. So I don't know what's going to happen. They have a beautiful house. She does here in Las Vegas. But congrats to her, man. So lots of news. In fact, I saved some stories from yesterday. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and then Johnny Cochran. Johnny Hendricks, he's got an opponent now. It's Dakota Cochran.
Yes, for WBK FF, and they're the main event. Dakota Cochran is filling in for
which is
Brendan
good because
Ward, who pulled out due to a contract dispute.
I didn't want that Lieben Baroni fight to get. I thought that's what they were going to do, so maybe break up that fight, but I kind of liked it. So I'm glad they went that route. And it's good you could still see Johnny. Obviously, Brendan would have been a lot of fun, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah. I'm just glad Johnny gets a fight, and kudos to Cochran for stepping up and fighting on, 2 days' notice? He wasn't on the card, right?
I think so.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, I think he was on the undercard.
So they pulled him, and he moved him up. Okay. Well, I guess that's even better. We have 2 trained fighters ready to duke it out. I'm talking to Bellator right now, and it looks like we'll have to reschedule our guest.
What?
As of right now, they're having trouble connecting Phil in Israel. So he's already there. And I understand, international, right now I would imagine they're about 12 hours ahead, so it could be 10 p.m. right now. And If they're not able to get a hold of them, or if they're just having trouble connecting, then that's fine. We'll see if we can reschedule them. And we just started the show. It's a 2-hour show, so we may have time. I'll have to let them know here when I get a chance to type that the next 60 to 75 minutes are wide open, because we would need at least 10 with them before we get to Paul Felder. Felder will be way at the end. So, guys, if anything, one door closes, the other one opens. We have our lists for wrestling.
I got mine right here.
We teased it yesterday. We'll have a little bit of fun with that. Marcel from Houston emailed me his, so I'll read his off. And the others, you are welcome to call in 866-522-2846 and share yours.
I didn't like this experiment.
And Danny Okers will give us the criteria that Busted Open used. We won't apply it to ours because I didn't give you that originally. So I wouldn't expect any of you to absorb everything Danny says via Dave LaGreca and Mark Henry, and then to go back out and do the quick homework assignment. So I just want you to blurt out your 10 names. And if you feel one of them stands out as that's my guy, that's my number one, great. But you don't have to do a countdown of 10. You can do it alphabetical. You can just however you wrote them. Have fun with it, all right? And I've already seen a couple lists, and right away I thought, well, that's dumb. But I realized, don't say that, George, because that's who entertained them.
Yep.
And I didn't give the criteria of this guy was a box office draw, pay-per-view, first guy on TV, he broke barrier. I didn't say all that, so it wouldn't be fair to critique anyone. If you just woke up and I used to get a kick out of The Godfather and his hose.
Right.
Mostly for the hose.
It was one. That was one of the.
I didn't even know. I couldn't tell you if he could shoot a double. But go ahead.
Trivia. That was one of the signs Dan Tom held to a wrestling event back in 1997. It was. I made an Admit 1 ticket, but out of a big poster board. I made it look like one of those Admit 1 tickets, and it says to the Ho Train.
Yeah.
Nice. Hey, you gotta take your shot. Like if you want
to get on TV, right?
I mean, do you want to party with the dudes as big as DX was? Do you want to party with the dudes with the Troop 69 shirt saying "suck it" as a bunch of dudes, or the guy with a bunch of chicks that might needed some help? Exactly. I'm just saying. Can I add something here? This is a great thing you're going on as far as your list criteria here, George. You're right. Criteria is important, and I will say that I would argue that I prefer. This is kind of what I do on my own podcast, the Protect Your Neck podcast. By the way, recording episode 100 later today.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. Not a top 5 episode, just a breakdown one, but we do a lot of list episodes, and the criteria we always use in general, even though the topics always change, it's your list. What is your top 5? Because like George is saying, everyone's is going to be different, and that's important because I was looking. I didn't hear the episode of Busted Open, but just by looking at their list, guys, just by those 2 lists, I could already tell that there was a strong criteria, and it was the criteria most people go. They go top 5 or top 10. Well, what is the top 10? And we're a little insecure because we're thinking about of all time, right? And we don't want to look bad. We want to pick the best possible options. But when you go that route, you end up with kind of the same list, and that, for the most part, is what I saw with LaGreca and whoever else did it. And I don't like that personally. Mark Henry. I don't like when lists are all like. If we came up here and all had similar lists, even if they were the quote unquote right list, that wouldn't be very entertaining for me participating. It wouldn't be very entertaining for me listening. So yeah, what George is saying, make it your list. That's more important.
Make it your list, and if you want to say a thing or two about each one, great. Every person can't get 7 to 10 minutes, or we'll only get to 3 lists. But the quicker you can go through it, then the better. Did you make a list, Danny Okers? Did we assign you the homework too, or you just sitting there going, I hope they don't ask me?
I didn't make a list. I think we were talking about it after the show. I didn't really watch wrestling growing up. Like I mean, I know the biggest names, but I wouldn't know how to rank any of them. You know what I mean?
Is that acceptable, guys, or should we make them do one?
Not if it's gonna be dumb.
Yeah, I don't know. I was running by some golden era stuff. I think post show yesterday, right, Danny? And you were like, I don't know that guy. I don't know that guy. I don't know that guy. Yeah. So I don't know if we get a great. No offense to Danny. I'm just defending him here.
It's a slam dunk, Danny. We want your list right before Paul Felder. You either have to reveal it right before Paul Felder or right after Paul Felder. So you're going to go to the end. You're going to hear a lot of names, at least 30. If no one calls, it's 30 names here. Well, actually, we may overlap.
We're going to overlap a lot.
But so it should be pretty easy to even cheat if you have to on this assignment, Danny.
Danny's list. Number 4, John Cena's left arm.
What I can't remember is where the I saw some other
breaking his list down.
I don't remember where I saw it. I know one was Marcel from Houston. His was via email. Maybe the other ones were in the chat. And I do want to talk about the chat. Yesterday's chat, somebody got put on timeout. It was me, not Dan Tom. And you have to remember that people come to this show, and we could have them over the phone, but instead they come here, and not only do they appear live for more than usual. A spot's usually like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 12, 15 on most shows. But oftentimes they'll come here and co-host. Not only will we talk everything about what's going on with them, but they'll chime in on different topics, the daily debate. That's a lot to ask of someone of their time nowadays. And even though it's not like the old days where we were all in the chat, and they actually we used to set up a laptop for them, and they could see what was going on. You just never know that if they tweeted something out to their fans, hey, check it out, I'll be on this show, and next thing you know, people are seeing things that are just what I would call inappropriate. What was being asked of us to ask Brian could have been just worded differently, and actually he touched on a few of these topics, but I can't be reading that, man. I can't be reading that and then hoping someone else doesn't. And that's just not fair to us, because we just don't know how they're going to take it. All right, I'll give you an example too. Gerald Harris, good friend of the show, he had tweeted something to @MMAjunkie. He's got a fight coming up at Bellator, and then he didn't tag me nor you, not even the show. He just said @MMAjunkie, and then he retweeted that, and then finally he put my name on there. But I could see some of the comments, and I saw Gerald say, "Oh man, when they need me, I'm there for them." And he's probably joking, but now that I'm trying to get some love, and so I go, fool, tag me, I'm not everywhere. You see what I'm saying? But you see how something like that could get misconstrued. I threw the LOL because you just never know. But that communication on social media, you just have to be a little careful. We really value our relationships. Huh?
What'd he say?
I haven't gone back to see. He might be going, fat boy, shut up. I don't know. But I told him I'd be in touch, because he's right. We have always maintained a good relationship with him. Through wins, through losses, through retirements, through comebacks, it doesn't matter. I hope you can all respect that. All right, so it may have been, I'm going to have to go, I can't go into yesterday's chat, because that'll take me forever. So if you really do have a list, tweet it @MMAjunkie George, @MMAjunkie Radio, and just put your top 10, top 10 fighters, just the ones that entertained you. But to be official, to start this off and be official about it, Danny, why don't you read us the criteria that Dave LaGreca and Mark Henry used on the Busted Open show for how they were going to come up with their list, and that's basically the idea that I'm stealing here.
I actually don't have to read it to you. I actually have a clip from their show of them saying what the criteria is.
All right, cool.
Cool.
Really quick before you start, not to interrupt, but again, the criteria, we came up with 5 things. In-ring performance, box office, influence on the business, mic work, and legacy.
God damn, he couldn't have said it any faster. I'm writing it down here. In-ring performance, influence, box office,
presence,
and history, did you say was the other one?
Legacy.
Really quick before you start, not to interrupt, but again, the criteria, we came up with 5 things. In-ring performance, box office, influence on the business, mic work, and legacy.
Mic work.
Legacy.
And legacy.
By the way, I'm sending out a tweet now from @MMAjunkie Radio. Follow us if you are not already, and send us your top 10 professional wrestlers there, especially you guys live listening to the show. I'm going to be checking this periodically, so I'll be ready whenever you want to call on me for that later.
Okay. So that's what they used. You don't have to use that. I think we just want to say, what's your top 10, favorites, so the ones that you just cheered for or booed, but even though you booed them, you enjoyed doing it. So shall I go first, or do you want to lead off, Goze or Dan? Or
I think one of you two should lead off.
I'll lead off just because I guess this is the list I threw together. I really didn't go back and do any homework. This is a list that I threw together, and it happened to be really close to Mark Henry, the former pro wrestler and I almost said bodybuilder, but powerlifter. In fact, do we want to read off their list first? Let's do that. Let's see what they came up with. Do you have that, Danny?
I have another recording of it. Who do you want first?
Mark.
All right, here you go.
Mark, I love your top 10. For those who didn't hear it again, I mean, I thought it's fantastic, eye-opening. There's 4 wrestlers in your top 10 that are not on my top 10. At number 10, you have Shawn Michaels. A little low for me. At number 9, you have Bruno Sammartino. At number 8, John Cena. At number 7, The Rock. At number 6, Stone Cold Steve Austin. At number 5, Hulk Hogan. At number 4, Andre the Giant. As a matter of fact, that may even be more now that I look at it that's not on my list. The Undertaker at 3. At number 2, Gorgeous George. And at number 1, Ric Flair.
Okay, Undertaker, Gorgeous George, and
Ric Flair.
I think I got them all. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And can you give us Dave's, please?
Yeah, here you go.
My top 10. Tanahashi at 10. Kurt Angle at 9. The Rock at 8. Shawn Michaels at 7. Dusty at 6. Terry Funk at 5. Stone Cold Steve Austin at 4. Lou Thesz, the Hooker, at 3. Hulk Hogan at number 2. And Ric Flair at 1.
Can you do it one more time?
Dude, there's no way you're going to catch that.
Sure.
My top 10. Tanahashi at 10. Kurt Angle at 9. The Rock at 8. Shawn Michaels at 7. Dusty at 6. Terry Funk at 5. Stone Cold Steve Austin at 4. Lou Thesz, the Hooker, at 3. Hulk Hogan at number 2. And Ric Flair at 1.
Shawn Michaels,
right?
Yeah.
All right, so let me just say something about them. Because I heard their episode.
Mm-hmm.
They're on at 9 a.m. Eastern, live, and then they replay them at noon. I catch the replay. This is what Mark Henry said, and so obviously some of this is paraphrasing, but Shawn Michaels is just an incredible performer, and I think he called him Mr. WrestleMania. He said Bruno Sammartino, and of course right away I was driving going, Bruno, like I didn't know how old school they were gonna go, but then he had a stat that just blew me away, and I went, oh, I feel you now, okay, because now I knew they had a criteria out there, and I think that's why Dave was really in awe of Mark's list. He said Bruno Sammartino, it was either 129 or 139, sold out the Garden, Madison Square Garden. And so if you think about it, for the McMahon family, they were based in the Northeast. They used to have territories. I think the AWA was like in the Minnesota area. The WCW, which was NWA before, they were along the eastern coast and the southeast, and then we had the Von Erichs. I forget what theirs was called. Something wrestling. It was
Stampede?
Texas Wrestling or something like that. Stampede, I think, was Calgary or something like that. So everybody, they had these territories, the Mid-South, and Vince McMahon was, before he basically conquered the world, he was the Northeast. So imagine what that meant to them. He must have been almost what Ortiz was to the Fertittas and Dana White at one point. Like, this is our guy, And remember, Tito Ortiz is like, hey, you had a great fight in March. Can you fight in July? That's how MMA is. Sammartino, the Garden was probably like every month, maybe twice a month, who knows what. And so if he's selling it out, I could see the impact that he had. Cena, he went on to say clothing, man, the titles that he's won, he was just, from like the turn of the millennium. The Rock, he said he would have put The Rock higher. And wasn't he part of the Nation Domination, all those guys?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think he was saying, like, hey, man, he's my homie, but this is what I got to say. He said The Rock just didn't have as long of a run as a lot of the other fighters.
Maybe.
And is that what he said? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what he said. He goes, otherwise it would have been higher. But, he said obviously the guy was incredible. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I don't remember what he said there. Hulk. I mean, at this point it was just like, do I need to say anything? Like, these are great, great guys. Andre the Giant. He said The Undertaker. He went out of his way to say The Undertaker. Now, he says The Undertaker's a good friend of his. I know that Mark Henry lives in Austin, Texas, and Undertaker lives in Houston, I think. So I think it was just, he's known him for such a long time. The longevity, the WrestleMania streak until it recently got broken. And he said, I think Dave piped in, but Mark agrees, it's probably the greatest character that the WWE ever came up with. Like, where they gave him something and the guy ran with it. So Last was Gorgeous George, and he said, Gorgeous George, you know how he had pins in his hair?
Yeah.
If he flicked those pins in the air, people would get them, kind of like souvenirs. He said they've gone for $70,000, the ones that have been authenticated. He goes, this is a guy that actually...
$70,000.
He goes, this was back in the day of bingo halls and small auditoriums. He goes, this is the first guy to ever take us to stadiums and television. So, you know, you're hearing all that, and so even though it's old school, you're going, okay, I see what he's saying. He was a mover and a shaker, you know, for his era. He initiated the heel role of you know, being booed. Like you showed up to see this guy lose, and you've heard Muhammad Ali say, I was influenced by that guy. And you heard Ric Flair say, I was influenced by Muhammad Ali. And you've heard Floyd Mayweather say, I was influenced by Ric Flair. And you've heard Conor McGregor say, basically take the page out of Floyd, you know, the whole money thing. So you see a lineage between pro wrestling to boxing to, you know, MMA, you know, back and forth. And all of these guys originate from a guy like Gorgeous George and the persona that he had. Ric Flair being number one, and again, I think nothing needed to be said. Then we got to Dave's, and he started with Tanahashi, and he started prefacing, you know, like, I know you're all gonna hate me, and blah blah blah, and I was thinking, oh, he's not comfortable with his, because everyone was blown away by Marks, including myself. But you know, he explained, because he actually said, I know you all thought I was gonna say Inoki or some of the current guys, but he gave his explanation for what Tanahashi's done in Japan and all that. I guess I just would have never guessed that guy. But he says it's kept New Japan in the business. There's a historical significance of the contributions of Japanese pro wrestling, and so that's why he went with that name. Then he went to Kurt Angle, then The Rock, Shawn Michaels. And then he said Dusty, and Dusty pained Mark Henry because Mark Henry said that was my number 11 because he said Dusty just had so much swag, and they started saying some real cool things that he used to say. Chili and beans, kings and queens. It was real cool. Kind of reminded me of when he would take the mic. Dusty Rhodes was pretty damn good.
Yeah, it was awesome, yeah.
I mean, he grabbed it. He could sell you on a fight right then and there. All out of shape, but you know, never tired, always performed. That was a real good one. Terry Funk, same thing. I grew up watching him a lot in the movies, but he just had a real tough guy persona, man. So I understood where he was coming from. Stone Cold. Then he went to Lou Thesz. Again, old school. And I know the modern listeners probably go, who's that fool, you know? But I did remember Lou Thesz, and I think Lou Thesz held the record for most titles before Flair eventually broke it. And I don't know if Cena's tied Flair or eventually broke that, but I know Lou Thesz hung in there for having it the longest, so it was kind of like an old school shout out. He did mention that he told a story about other wrestlers how excited they would get for being just in one of those. I think it was a Royal Rumble type, but they didn't call it that. It was
Battle Royal,
like a Battle Royal. What was it like to be in it with Lou Thesz? Like, he had a persona, almost like if you happen to catch Jordan maybe on the tail end, you know, and like, hey, what was it like to be on the court with Jordan or something like that?
Yeah.
Hulk and Ric Flair, they both just were unanimous on Ric Flair, and that was it. So as they had done that on yesterday's show. I prepared mine on Tuesdays when I heard what they were going to do, and I wrote them down quick. I wrote Brock Lesnar, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, John Cena, The Rock, Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and The Undertaker. I thought about Randy Macho Man Savage, but I didn't want to go back because these were the ones that stood out, and Savage at that time, I think if I would have pulled over and really thought about it, I may have squeezed them in there, and I may not have. I don't know. But I'm just going to – if I did, I think Hart would be the one that takes the fall. But Hart, I remember winning a lot of titles and just kind of representing that guy that was just serious, wound up being a heel, the Hart found. So I loved him as a tag team or as a singles wrestler. And I guess Macho Man's passed away now for what, 15, 20 years?
Has it been 20 years?
Maybe 10?
I don't know, but I don't know. It's been 20, yeah. probably 10 or
Macho Man
15.
had an amazing character as well. I mean, it's just to always be like, you know, and talking like he did, and just constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And he had Elizabeth, and that was cool. She was cool. But anyway, I guess he would have been my number 11th if anybody say, who's your number 11th? And then after hearing Mark Henry, I guess my 12 would be maybe Dusty. Who knows? But so when I heard Mark's, I was like, because I thought for sure these guys are going to laugh at mine. I was thinking of calling in.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe it. I matched up on all of them except he had Bruno and he had Gorgeous George. And I had Hart and Brock. I kind of still stand by Brock. Fuck. Brock didn't make either one's list.
Wow.
But he's literally been a phenom. Like, I think if you listen to them in July and they go, next year's WrestleMania, and they always have Brock as one of the two, and who are you going to pin, who are you going to put up against them? And I've been hearing that for like 3 or 4 years. So I thought for sure, like, maybe because he just doesn't fight as often and he doesn't speak much. So the mic work's not there. The legacy's got to be there. The box office for sure is there. I don't know. But that's mine. Go ahead, Goze. Go ahead. What's yours? Oh, no. I'll tell you what. Hold on to yours. You have to all wait. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM's Fight Nation Channel 93. When we come back, you'll get to hear Goze's list. He'll go first. And then we have Kevin from Chicago on hold. Hopefully he's got a list.
I know I got Dan Gable on it.
I know he got Marcel from Houston. And then Dan, Tom, you ready to go to bat yet?
Yeah, whenever you guys are
cool.
ready.
All right, cool. All right, we're having fun there, sharing our top 10 wrestlers ever.
Compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goze.
Get the radio channel numbers and a link to listen to your favorite NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, or NHL teams sent right to your smart device. Just go to SiriusXM.com/sports today and click Add to My Calendar. Paul Felder's back on the mic this week. They must be loving him because he's getting a lot of these gigs. And to come off a pay-per-view, you'd think they'd say, hey, see you in a few months, fella. Go do your camp or whatever. But I like him. He's doing great. It's not that I disagree with the decision. It just
he's very likable.
There's others, and I don't know if that's a message to the others. Like, pick up your game. This is becoming one of our main cats. You know what I mean? So I'm happy for him. He joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Paul Felder? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Good, man. Hell, we're gonna have to start introducing you more as the UFC. Analyst versus the UFC lightweight. You're getting a lot of work.
Yeah, things got switched up. I got to do my first pay-per-view. It was awesome to be at the Garden there in New York, man. And I had already had Denver booked, so quick turnaround. Right back out here. I'm on the UFC shuttle now on the way to the hotel and going right into fighter meeting. So I had to get on early with you guys, but then. Things are going to start slowing down. Obviously, my fight's been announced, and I've been in training this whole time anyway, but things will start picking up in the next couple weeks after UFC Denver, for sure.
Have they told you, Paul, why they like you? What they feel are your strengths? I just know that you're entertaining for me, and you get the job done. But obviously, I'm not a producer behind the scenes, a director, but what do they relay to you?
Amazing good looks. My charm, how I look in a suit, my new beard that I've been rocking, really has nothing to do with being well-spoken or intelligent about fighting. It's got to just be the look.
So those guys are part-time
comedians, I know the game. I get in there still currently, and I'm very familiar with the fighters and what they're going through, and I think I speak to the process of what these guys and girls are going through to get into the octagon and just the pressure and all that. So I really try to chime in on that, on what these athletes have to go through, and really can acknowledge what's going on in the moment, maybe more so than other color commentators, just because how active I still am. And yeah, that's it. It's just been fun, man. And I get along really well with everybody, and I try to be somebody that's easy to work with.
All right, so we already talked about the good stuff. What kind of feedback have they given you in terms of just constructive criticism?
Well, just always, the one note I always get is just trying to be more and more prepared and get better at notes and things like that, and having some outside info on these athletes, not just their fighting styles and what they do well in the octagon, but who they are as people. And I tried to do a little more of that with Madison Square Garden, and just, I wanted to really step up my game for that one, and I thought it went pretty well. It's so easy to work with Joe and John. Normally I'm with my man Brendan, who's just as easy to work with, but it was so much more fun to mix things up. I like going back and forth and working with new people.
Right, yeah. Paul Felder's our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. Not only does he call the fights, he also fights, and he'll be fighting. He's got a fight that's been booked at UFC 232 versus James Vick, and that's on December 29th. This weekend, he'll be calling UFC Fight Night 139 in Denver, Colorado. All right, Goze, what do you have for Paul Felder?
Paul, I wanted to talk a little bit about preparation for fighting and for broadcasting. Anytime we try something new, I know, early on in our show, we used to just prep a ton, and then after a while, you get into a rhythm, you learn new things, and things start to change. So, for me, my question is, what's the biggest difference from what you did preparation-wise for your very first fight and your very first broadcasting gig to what you do now?
Well, as far as the fight, I can tell you from my first amateur fight, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was still drinking on the weekends, hanging out with my friends, and then I would train all week. And I was puking after my first amateur fight because I was so exhausted. I had no idea about adrenaline rushes and all that kind of stuff. Versus now, obviously, 8 to 10 weeks out. I don't touch a drop of anything. I eat super clean. And I probably, in my first pro fight, was overtrained trying to prepare for 5-minute rounds. And as far as broadcasting, the first one, which was Contender Series, I had to do most of my preparation on the flight from Scotland to Vegas because I was in training camp the whole time and fought the Sunday before the Contender Series, which aired on Tuesday. So from Sunday to Tuesday, I had to like cram and study these guys. Luckily, it was only 5 fights, which was doable. Now, you know, these cards that are 12, 13 fights, you know, I'm starting a couple weeks out on fight preparation and watching fights and studying notes and things like that.
A guy like James Vick, when it comes to preparing for a guy like him, he's got a unique body frame, one that you almost can't understand how he could even make that weight. I know you come from a great gym. I know you guys have tons of guys. But how many guys do you have that can mimic that style and have that body type that you're going to be working with?
We have a couple of Muay Thai guys that train there and come through that are about 6'2", 6'3", good kicks, good range. Gerald Mershart's, I think, 6'1". Mike Biggie Rhodes is 6'1". I train with him. These guys are bigger than me, even bigger than Vic. You know, they're middleweights. So I just have to work with bigger bodies and you know, deal with even harder in the long run. Also, Brendan Allen, who's LFA camp. I think he's going to be back in camp at the same time I am. I hope he is at least. Maybe I can at least bring him in. He's a great sparring partner. I mean, he's good on the ground. He's got good chokes. And I think he's 6 foot, but his reach is ridiculous. His reach is actually longer than the taller James Vick. So he's good to work with just because I got to get inside of that range and try to deal with his long punches, and that's what Vic does really well. He's got a really good jab, good rear uppercut, good knees. So he was really helping me when I was preparing for him the first time around. So I'm hoping we can get him back into camp for this next one.
Time for the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Dan, what do you have for Paul Felder?
Hey, Paul. You know, I'm looking at this fight where it's located. Actually, kind of interests me the most about this booking because not only should it be a fun fight, obviously between you two, but you and James, I would argue, probably have some of the bigger weight cuts, notably maybe in the division. I would say. Obviously, people who spent time around you know that you're a sizable lightweight, but I think that secret is kind of out now. You know, especially with a little scale thing that was posted this last weekend of you stepping on there.
No, that was so stupid on my part, by the way.
Well, let me ask you about that. I definitely don't want to out you here, Paul. But you know, we've seen the commissions, especially you know when fights take place in California. You know, Drew Dober is a guy that comes to mind in your division who kind of got nicked and you know a strong recommendation, if you will, to move up. Is any of these kind of coming into your play as far as prep? You know, making sure you want to be down low when they come sniffing around.
Yeah, 100%, man. That was the first thing that we addressed before we signed the contract. I was talking to Shelby and Jeff Novinsky and everybody, just making sure that, you know, the fight was even going to be able to take place or they were going to give us a hard time. The one thing that made us all confident was at least my opponent is doing the same thing, if not worse. You know what I'm saying? So coming into this, it's not like I'm getting matched up with somebody where I'm going to be 25 pounds heavier than in the cage on fight night. James Vick probably cuts even more weight than I have to. But obviously, I'm going to try to be on top of my weight. I'm already trying to watch my diet. When I stepped on that scale in New York, it was a joke, and I still have my sweatpants on, and I was also out eating the night before. I'm down probably about 5 or 6 pounds lighter than what it said on that scale normally when I'm training during the week. You know what I mean? That was a weekend. I was traveling. So that's not a true description of what I weigh right now.
100%. The fluctuations for you guys, especially off season or at the edge of camp, so to speak, is pretty crazy. I think you know for men and women.
Once I start full 8-week training camp, I'm training 3 times a day. I'm not going to be weighing anywhere near what it said on that scale.
100%. But just one more question, I guess, in regards to your experience. You know, now fighting at both weights. Obviously, you know, you fought welterweight Mike Perry, and you know, I'm sure you had a lot of lightweight rounds in training camp with Donald Cerrone. So, in my opinion, that probably makes you one of the most qualified people on the planet to weigh in on this fight. So, you don't have to give a pick, or I'll let that be up to you, Paul. But can you give us maybe a little preview of what you see being keys, or how you see this fight maybe even going down?
Yeah, 100%. I give you, kind of a breakdown of what I think should play out, how it might play out. But since I'm calling the fight, I don't want to show any favoritism. Obviously, shared the octagon with Perry and still friends with Cowboy and trained with him for years. But I think there's just a huge discrepancy in the talent on the ground there. And I think if Cowboy wants to have a safe night and go in there in front of his hometown in Denver and get that win, get this fight to the ground and use your jiu-jitsu. Even if you're on your back, his triangle, omoplata, his arm bars are all ridiculous. Use his kicks when he's out at range. Keep the distance from Perry. Don't let him get in your grill. And for Mike, he's got to get past those kicks, check those kicks, and pressure Cowboy from the opening bell. That's what Mike's got to do. From the opening bell, he's got to be in Cowboy's face, throwing big punches. We've seen that a bit of a problem for Cerrone in the past, but he knows that. He knows coming into this fight, and they've had a little bit of time training together, which doesn't mean anything. Obviously, on fight night, things are completely different than in the training room. But, yeah, pressure and boxing from Mike Perry. And Cowboys, he's got to use his kicks and level change and try to get the fight to the ground.
There you have it. And none of you guys checked me. I introduced Paul as fighting James Vick on December 29th at UFC 232 in Las Vegas. He's actually fighting at UFC 233 in California.
Oh, wow, I didn't get that.
In January. So when Dan was asking him about the weight, I was like, well, Nevada's not that nosy. And then I looked it up. I go, oh, shit, big old pie in my face. Well, at least that gives you an extra month, Paul Felder.
Yeah, plenty of time.
All right, my man. Well, listen, congrats. We really are happy for all the success you're having as a broadcaster. And I know that you will have to curtail for the next few months as you do your camp. That's fine, because we've gotten you on quite a few shows, and I thought that was huge to have your first pay-per-view in the Garden. Now we just got to get you to fight in the Garden one time. But seriously, man.
I know, yeah, that would be something I want to do in the future for sure. After experiencing that, man, for that last pay-per-view, that arena is definitely everything people say it is.
Oh yeah, I agree. Just know they go to New York in November. That seems to be pretty consistent. So if you want to map out your fight schedule for next year, maybe January, June, and November, there you go.
There you go.
All right, bud. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know you got to get to work, so we'll let you go. But thanks as always for your time. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you guys. Always love talking to you guys. Thanks so much.
You too, buddy. Take care.
Bye.
That's Paul Felder. Follow him on Twitter at FelderPaul, the reverse of his name. Let him know you heard him on the at MMA Junkie Radio show. We're going to take our last break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close.
injuries forced them to retire undefeated from MMA with a record of 0-0-0. They are Gorgeous George and Goze, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Get in the spirit of the holidays with SiriusXM's full lineup of holiday channels. 15 channels of commercial-free holiday music, including Holiday Traditions on Channel 3, Holly on Channel 4, and new this year, the Stars of Hallmark Channel. They present their favorites on the Hallmark Channel Radio. That's Channel 70. Get our complete lineup at SiriusXM.com/holidays and bring the holiday cheer into your home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. All right, let's go to Kevin in Chicago. He's been waiting.
Who am I, Matt Damon?
And then in the second hour, we'll get to Goze. We had to reshuffle because Paul Felder. You Matt Damon yourself. You're the one that told me Paul Felder can go.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk to Kevin in Chicago. What's up, Kevin? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Just munching down on some gyros, some Chicago gyros. What's the gyros like in Vegas?
The gyros?
It can be choppy sometimes.
The Greek food sandwich.
There's one place that we have out here that people really like.
Pita bread.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only had it once, and I had it in I think I had it in Amsterdam.
Did you?
Yeah, it was pretty good, but I don't remember it being that good that I need to have it ever again in my life.
Oh, you're missing out on the Chicago style. I don't know about Vegas. They mainly got the buffet stuff like that, huh?
No, man, it's changed a lot. There's tons of restaurants.
There's great restaurants here. Steakhouses galore.
What kind of stuff do you like?
I don't know. I think of Vegas. I think of like high quality casino food, but I think Chicago's kind of got like a lot of local, like mom and pop type shops. Like good hot dog stands, stuff like that.
There's fine cuisine in Vegas now. They're all competing with each other. The days of the buffet, that's just like people with hangovers that are just trying to shake a headache and they just want to get food in their belly so they can down like 4 Advils or something like that. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll get to my point then. This Ben Askren versus Robbie Lawler fight, I hear people kind of the talking point is that, why is Askren fighting Lawler? Because Lawler doesn't talk a bunch of trash. I mean, they could have made a bunch of other fights. And I hear that from the fans, and I hear even MMA media saying it. And my thing is, I mean, that's like probably the best way they can make. Lawler's got the takedown defense, and he got one-shot knockout power. So I'm really looking forward to that fight. I mean, I don't really need the back talk and the drama to go with it. What do you guys think?
I think it all depends on what the UFC wants. If they want Ben to succeed, I can think of a lot of other matchups that probably would have worked out better. If they don't, then maybe. Yeah, I think Robbie's actually a very tough outing for them to do. I think you can tell what they want based on that matchup.
Yeah.
Because they could have done him a few favors.
Yeah. What about like kind of the trash talk? How people are like, oh, there's going to be no trash talk, so it's not going to be good. I'd rather see him face Darren Till because then there'll be a bunch of drama involved. I mean, for me, I like seeing the matchup.
That's my side. That's what I like. Dan's opposite of me. Goze, where do you sit?
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle.
But it doesn't make sense because that's one of the main reasons, I think, that they brought him in. And then they put him in a position with a guy that's not going to do that. So that's why it leads me to believe that they're not really interested in Ben Askren succeeding too much.
And I was actually arguing on the other side that we should have that there should be trash talk, not because I'm into that per se, but because we need. My more point was that we need people to headline cards, and not just for one time and then getting beat up. We want some longevity out of these guys. And I don't know if that's the best way to get that from either guy.
And even though I say that, and I know people disagree with it, that's fine. I have no problem with it. But I will say, I also look at the analytics, the traffic report, and just those stories they click. So I know I think the UFC does the same thing. So they appeal to that low. I'm a lower common denominator. I'll admit it, man. That's me, you know. But anyway, all right, Kevin. Thanks for the call. I thought you could have done a lot better by participating in the top 10 wrestler thing, but you didn't. So we'll be right back, folks. Top of the hour break. Quick one.
It's my house, come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins. Cause we've done this before, so you come on in. Make yourself at my home, tell me where you've been. Pour yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this. Sometimes you gotta stay in, and you know where I live. Yeah, you know what we is. Sometimes you gotta stay in. Welcome to my house.
All right, here we go. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show. We're starting off the second hour. We're going to go back to our project for the day, our homework from yesterday, which was to come up with 10 of our favorite wrestlers ever. We didn't really give a criteria. We just kind of stole the idea from Busted Open. And I already gave mine. I'll rehash mine. And then we'll get to Goze, Dan, and anybody else that wants to call in or participate via social media. Dan's monitoring that. I'm keeping an eye on it, too. Mine were, in no particular order, by the way, Brock Lesnar, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, John Cena, The Rock, Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and The Undertaker. And I would just say, if somebody were to say, how'd you pick those, I'd say I went off mostly popularity, but I think the impact and also most of these guys, I think, were title holders with the exception of Andre. But, you know what? Goze does this a lot. They old pull someone off the street and ask them, have you ever heard of this? I feel like all of mine would be like, yup, heard of him? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when Dave went the route of Tanahashi, I think somebody would go, oh, yeah. His was more of a hardcore thing. Remember I explained yesterday that Meltzer would love his?
Yeah.
But the common fan, maybe not. The common fan probably wouldn't know Luthez either or Bruno Sammartino, but
maybe Bruno Sammartino.
They had criteria and we didn't. So, again, we have 1 hour to go. You can hit us up at MMAjunkie Radio or personally at Dan Tom MMA, at MMA Junkie George, at the Goze. Don't check Goze. Goze rarely goes on Twitter. Maybe at Twitter. Danny Otto or something like that. I think Danny's more of a presence. So, Goze, I guess we've been waiting for yours the longest. So, go ahead. What's yours? Go ahead.
I did do it based on that criteria you said yesterday, which is very similar to theirs.
All right.
So, I went with Triple H, Shawn Michaels.
Wait. Don't be like Dave LaGreca.
No, I didn't know you were
Triple
ready.
H.
Degeneration X fan over there, huh?
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. Roddy Piper.
Wait, he's number 8?
Oh, no, I didn't do it
no
in
particular order. I got
yeah.
you. I was going to say, I
The
got
Rock.
number 1.
Stone Cold. Macho Man Randy Savage. Bret Hart. Ric Flair. Thunder Lips. Or Hulk Hogan, whichever. I thought Thunder Lips had the better career.
You could have also went with Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, that's true. And the last one is probably one that I don't think you guys may have. I liked Jake Roberts.
Huh.
I thought he was interesting. I thought he was a good wrestler in his day. I don't know if you've seen what he's done lately, but but you know, bringing the whole persona with the snake and all that, I thought it was pretty crazy. So he was my last one.
All right. Dan Tom, you're up next.
You know, Jake the Snake Roberts fits one of those where he's classic. I like his story, and he should be on my list. But the fact that I wasn't watching him or have like another connection to him,
good finishing move too,
a strong connection to him. Yeah, I had to leave him out. You know, you mentioned the Japanese one. Here's one that I left out, and I'll run through my list real quick. This is the last honorable. Just Nobuhiko Takada. I mean, he's the guy who fought Hickson Gracie at the first Pride event. I mean, he was a New Japan guy. He really helped with the shoot style wrestling. Really opened up, you know, that world as far as, you know, just New Japan Pro Wrestling, even into, you know, shoot style fighting. But again, I don't have a connection to that guy other than mixed martial arts. So here's mine. Number 10, I always go hipster pick at the end. Andy Kaufman. Because he wanted to wrestle women, okay? That was his gimmick. Like, who else has that gimmick? And in historical preferences, you know, he brought, you know, to the NWO that southern kind of market with Lawler there, and that little stunt actually did a lot for pro wrestling. It really, historically, it actually brought a lot of attention to it, and really took another level, took Lawler's career to another level, who, you know, commentated through the Golden Years. So I stand by that hipster pick. I got to give love to the Mexican. No one's giving love to any of the luchadors, man. Juventud Guerrera. Juvie Juice. Juventud Guerrera, he was in the WCW era, is one of the more smaller guys, and you know, you got to give love to the smaller people. Shouts to the flyweights. I know this is an MMA show, so want to give, you know, staying in that theme, giving love to them. Some of the most fun matchups ever. Number 8, Ken Shamrock, man. Ken Shamrock. I mean, I knew he was part of the reason why I knew about MMA. I knew about UFC or cage fighting, which is why when a guy named Ken Shamrock, who came from cage fighting, you know, stepped down to the WWE, I was like, ooh, this guy's a badass. He's one of the real dudes. He's got real submissions.
Former Intercontinental champ.
That's right.
And he had one of my favorite moves called the Hurricanado.
Yep. And you know what? You could argue that a lot of people, probably among my generation, that got drawn to, again, MMA show, circling back to MMA, kind of got drawn to the Tito Ortiz and Shamrock trilogy. Let's be honest, they were drubbings. What was having people buy was Tito Ortiz doing his thing, of course, not to take away from him, but also Shamrock bringing his people. Stone Cold, actually Edge, number 7 Edge, you know, entering through the crowd. I don't know why. I really loved, you know, I never followed his character and didn't really like where it went. I think they made him get on the roids, but I liked when he was just like a slim dude entering through the crowd, was sleek. He'd spear people. It was better than Goldberg's spear, and Goldberg was the guy getting all the cred for it. So Edge, Stone Cold. I came with that era. How can you know, not like a guy who's sending a positive message to children by Stone Cold talking himself in the third person, drinking, and you know, getting behind the wheels of cars. I can get behind that guy.
What?
The Rock. That's what he did.
No, I know. People would say,
what? The Rock, of course, you know, Rocky Maivia, you know, we didn't know, was he Samoan? What is he, Hawaiian? What is he, what? It didn't matter. He was just awesome. I think he captivated a lot of people. Kane, I mean,
Kane Velasquez?
Kane, you know, the 7-foot giants, when they would, you know, Undertaker, I feel like he went from like 6'9", 6'10". They jumped him up to 7 foot when Kane made his thing. Then after that era came about, now I think Undertaker's back down to 6'10" or something. I don't know where he stands, but it was cool to see a guy that didn't talk, you know, being there live for one of his entrances and feeling the flames, like, oh, that was cool. And then when he did talk, it was like, job is my lover, or whatever he would say with him and Paul Bearer, right?
I think his name was Glenn Jacobs, and I think he played basketball at the University of Tennessee.
I thought it was Isaac Yankem.
And if I'm not mistaken, he may
Glenn
be
Jacobs,
in politics now or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. You are right, sir. Number 3, Mick Foley. Of course, you know, all his characters. That's kind of a cheat one where I will say take one guy. Number 2, the first pro wrestler I ever got involved with. A shout out to my Uncle Paul who got me into it. You know, babysitting me. It was his birthday yesterday. Ted DiBiase, the original $1 Million Man, baby. That's right. And him and Hacksaw Jim Duggan were bucking for that spot, but I gave it to Ted. And of course, number 1, Razor Ramon, the best. One of the best, you know, his ladder match, SummerSlam '94 with Shawn Michaels, to his drunk limousine entrance to fight Goldberg at WCW. That dude was the man.
Okay, all right. Let me read Marcel. Marcel from Houston.
Marcel.
He emailed me his. Oh, great! I thought I just had it right here, ready to go.
Do you want me to buy you some time with another listener list?
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu at HipHopson76. Hit us up on Twitter at MMAjunkie Radio for those who want to follow. No particular order. The Rock, Stone Cold, Roddy Piper, who I thought was going to be Goze's number 1.
Rock, Stone Cold.
Roddy Piper, who I thought was Goze was going to be number 1 if he had to put a number next to it.
Oh, if I had to? Yeah, he might be. Well, no, he'd be number 2.
Wow, really?
Yeah, Ric Flair would be number 1.
All right. Bret the Hitman Hart for Drew. Ric Flair, speaking of, he also has Triple H like Goze, giving some Undertaker some love. He gives Hogan love. Razor Ramon, yeah, my man, and Sting. There's one, Sting.
Got it.
He didn't make my list, but he was within my time era.
There's a lot of great ones, honestly. Yeah. There was some that I just liked, and they were so off the wall that I'd have to come up with a top 100, and I probably could, honestly.
We should do an other guy's list.
Yeah.
Because I think ours were going to be obvious.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier about The Godfather, there's really nothing to his wrestling. I just loved his entrance.
That's
and
right.
The hose
That's right.
He was Papa Shango, too.
All that stuff. Marcel from Houston. He says, in no particular order, Jake the Snake Roberts, the $1 Million Man, who is Ted DiBiase, Hulk Hogan, Bret the Hitman Hart, the Ultimate Warrior. Took a while to hear that name. Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, I wanted to put him on.
Roddy Piper. The Rock, The Undertaker, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's a solid list.
Mr. Perfect. It was between Mr. Perfect and Jake the Snake for me at that very end.
Yeah. And then, do you have any more, Dan?
Just from the chat, none more from Twitter, unless you want to jump over to YouTube chat. I know Don Piccolo submitted a list, kind of back.
We're gonna take this call, and then I'll go peep at. I thought I did see something in the chat, so
there's quite a few coming through there.
In Oregon, what's up, Dan? How you doing?
And you might want to take the YouTube chat first, because I'm going to try and derail this freaking wrestling conversation you got going on here.
I did tell him to call in.
Well, no, we can get back to it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
every once in a while the cops show up to a party, so we'll do you. And
in my defense, I tried to mix martial arts into my list.
And then we'll go back to the party. But go ahead. What's your thing?
All right, you can call this a party, I guess. We got to talk about flyweights, man. It sounds like they're just about done. You know, we got so many months left, and so I think it would only be fit for us to all bring up one of our favorite flyweight fights ever. And I'll start off this conversation. We got to go all the way back to the UFC heading to Ireland. And this is after Conor becomes kind of big. We're like, oh, who's going to be the main event? And I don't know how it happened, but we ended up with Paddy Houlihan was the man who stepped up. I swear it was like the day of.
Against
Smolka? And I'm thinking, what the hell? Paddy Houlihan's going to main event this against Luis Smolka? This is
they were the main event. They were the main event.
Yep. It was supposed to be Duffy and Poirier. It got nixed. That's right. October 2015.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, man. I got proven wrong so big time. Where Luis Smolka and Paddy Houlihan went out there and put on one of the greatest fights ever. If you know anyone who says, "Oh, I don't like grappling. I just want to watch them strike," put on this fight. Houlihan and Smolka just go scramble after scramble, takedown attempt, choke attempt, just back and forth on the feet. One of my favorites, and so I just got to show it some love. I know Luis Smolka's out there on the regional scene getting some W's. Paddy has since, retired. And so I want to hear you guys' favorites, and maybe this is a weird observation, but it feels like the taller, not that UFC sizes, maybe they totally are. I feel like they're getting rid of the small flyweight, and they're giving the big flyweights the chance to move up. It's crazy. So we'll stick on that today. What's your guys' favorite flyweight fight? Back to you guys out.
Thanks, buddy.
I liked when they did that mini tournament. I actually enjoyed McCall and DJ. I thought that was fun.
That would make my list. The one Dan would make my list. Shout out to Aaron Bronstetter. He just tweeted, "Was your favorite flyweight fight yesterday?" And a lot of good ones came in, but my immediate one that came into my list, man, takes me is John Lineker versus Luis Gaudino. That was back in 2012, UFC on Fox. That was one of the first flyweight fights, and it was just a barn burner. Luis Gaudino put John Lineker to sleep at the end of it. It was just insane shots. And wasn't Alex Davis on this show sharing us a story about that fight with John Lineker where he spent his whole per diem that week to buy a PlayStation? He had no money for food, and his thinking was, well, I have to cut weight anyways, so why don't I just spend my food money on a PlayStation? And he had no money. He was like bumming water, for Christ's sake, going into the fight. And he loses the fight, right? But they actually got a fight of the night bonus, of course. And that was just such a big deal. He had to negotiate to really play to the heartstrings because of that bonus was just life-changing to Lineker, who actually lost that fight. You look where his career went from there. So
right.
I love that fight.
So I'm just gonna give you pieces of different fights because I don't have the memory retention to remember whole fights, I guess. But there's certain things about a couple fights that I'll name.
Okay.
For one, when Benavidez fought Cejudo, man, I've never heard two guys at that weight class crack each other like that. And you could see both of their faces, especially Cejudo's. After he lost, he thought he won.
Right.
But he had a face like he was shook up.
Yeah.
They both were smacked. In fact, Cejudo started to become more of
that was an intense fight,
having a polished kickboxing game. You know
You're
what
right.
I mean? Benavidez got the call, but Cejudo really, really showed me that he had improved so much from where we know him coming through wrestling and then having all those weight cutting failures and all that. Another one I liked was
it's a good fight. It's good pick. Small cage too.
Was I believe it was Ray Borg and our guy Gianni Herrera.
Oh, that was fun. That was a fun fight.
Gianni
yeah.
had been on our show a little bit. Yeah, there was. And even though I think it was a 30-27, he may have gotten a 29-28 out of one judge. I can't remember. he just never gave up. Kind of how I described Jason Knight the other day. Remember, Jason Knight was just getting owned, really, but he was still trying, and he made Rinaldi have to fight one of his best fights. The score just wasn't indicative because Jason Knight kept trying to. He just couldn't get out of that body triangle, you know. And Gianni, he hurt Ray with his punching, and but Ray was just too much with the grappling. But it was just interesting to see someone not give up. And this kid had been brought to us by Jen Wink, so we gave him a little bit of love on the show. And
I like those interviews.
They come through here, you just can't help but start to like them. And then you guys obviously know Ray Borg was a guy that I managed to get to the studio as well. Him and I are Facebook buddies, and we've chatted, so I like them both, you know. But at the time, I didn't know Borg as well, and Gianni was just a dude that came through here a lot, and he had that story with his son. And
it's a good one.
The other one was Benavidez and Elliott. Like, the first round was so funny.
Yeah.
Because Tim Elliott was just pressuring Benavidez, and they went through so many different submission attempts. And I remember Rogan, I think it was Rogan, his head wanted to explode. He goes, "Oh my God!" He goes, "I think he's got a banana split on him," you know. And it's true. But you see Benavidez' legs out there, and he was trying to submit him. It's actually an actual submission. But I think Rogan was like, "I can't believe this fight might end with a banana split." And Benavidez got out of it. But, I mean, he pushed him, you know, in that first round. And I really, really enjoyed the grappling aspect of it. So it's just different things from these different fights. The McCall, you know, remember he was goofing? And some say that may have cost him. Here's one. Look, before you all go, you're a Benavidez cheerleader. Of course, he comes here and does the show a lot. Nicest guy you'll ever meet. But here's a moment that I'll never forget. It actually had to do with Benavidez losing. I was in Sacramento, and in this fight, because Benavidez had lost a split decision against DJ, and because Benavidez had such a great run at WEC, I think everyone felt Benavidez can make some tweaks, and he's going to get DJ in the second fight. Remember, that first fight was in Toronto, and I think Benavidez was like a minus 300. Nobody expected DJ to win that. DJ won it and became one of the greatest ever. So in this fight, everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's in Sacramento. It's for the title." I think his teammates had gone like 3-1 that night. It was Team Alpha Male night.
Yeah.
And the crowd was just popping, you know. And that was one time I got to sit on press row. I don't really ask to, but they don't really offer it. But because this show, I think, was just sparsely attended, maybe, who knows? I think it was a big Fox show. I can't remember. I remember Dave Schaller, the former communications director for the UFC, when I got my ticket. Oh, no. I forget. Well, I guess when I first got there, they go, "You're on press row," you know. And when I got there, I was like, "Oh, cool." And I was actually sitting next to Dave, so it was a great experience because he was just telling me a few things about, you know, his job. But when I was there, I remember thinking, man, this is going to go 1-1, and I wonder when the trilogy will be. And then DJ hits him. They had an exchange early in the fight, and Benavidez is out. And then you just heard this crowd.
Wait, which one?
The second time they fought. Well, he beat him both times, but the second time he knocked him out.
I think that was in Vegas.
No, it was in Sacramento, trust me. So as loud as it was when he got knocked out, that like vortex noise, like it just got sucked the noise and the enthusiasm and the happiness that little arena had in that moment. DJ did it. Here's why I'll never forget it, because for one, I just saw Benavidez out and I was like, "Oh my God," you know, it hurt me a little bit. Two, DJ had been getting railed a lot about, "You just got to decisions, just go to decisions." And watch DJ, the way he celebrates. It's the same thing, you know, you see that old little spinning. But to see it that close, like to see the knockout and then the spinning. And so my eyes, it's like one eye was on DJ and just seeing his celebration. And the other eye was like on Joseph, like, man, I hope he's all right. And then feeling the whole crowd. You know, like I say, I can't sit there and tell you, "Oh my God, it was 25 minutes of mayhem," or it was 15 minutes that I'll never forget. But it was just the moments that I picked out from some of these fights.
Yeah, it was an important moment. Sorry, you said something?
Well, I was gonna say a flyweight fight where it really felt kind of like a heavyweight title fight where there was a lot on the line was the Cejudo DJ fight, where I think you would instantly go to Twitter and go, well, what are they scoring it at? How are they doing that?
Yeah.
Like, they haven't had too many of those that had that type of feel,
Right.
and that one I remember.
Yeah, it's tough to split hairs, but I don't think it's fair to compare to other divisions per se. But I think that these kind of conversations are good to have. Thank you, Dan. As far as like us, sharing, because it's cool like to hear these things like memory lane, where you were for this or what impacted the timeline. Just to kind of give not a last touch. I know we're gonna probably talk more about flyweights here in a second, a different angle, but just to give Dan or anybody else interested more my perspective. The names that you guys were mentioning, Scoggins was in some fun ones with Borg as well.
Scoggins is just an entertaining fight.
Yeah, Scoggins and Smoker were two guys. I feel like I gave them the kiss of death. I said those were the two dark horses, and they both had runs at the time, and then they kind of I don't know if they shot themselves in the foot or what. They didn't have some great performances. Both guys are building back up now. Wish them nothing but the best. Still fans of them. But those were two guys I thought were dark horses to take Demetrius. And the two guys that I was watching for now, that this is what I feel bad for all the flyweights, obviously, but two of the flyweights that I really felt had some promise, and I'm really watching where they go. I will follow them where they go, is Alexandre Pantoja and Davison Figueiredo.
Oh, Figueiredo.
That guy's a beast, dude. That guy hits like a heavyweight for a flyweight. He just has unreal power, man.
Pantoja has improved his striking, which makes him very entertaining.
He's fun to watch. He puts fun fights.
If you had told me Pantoja 3 years ago, I would have said, I don't know if I agree. But you're right. He shored that up, and he's a tough out now.
He's fun fights, yeah. His scrambles.
His jiu-jitsu is off the way. And Figueiredo is something else, man.
Do you think a lot of them will leave? You don't think some of them will just go, all right, I'll fight at 135?
Well, I'm not afraid to be wrong, so I'll tell you what I think. I think Dan said it. Dan from Oregon. If you read a little bit into Shorty Torres in the story that was put out, they basically told him, even though he's got the option to do 35 or 25 because he's done that on the regional circuit, they told him, we just don't think you're 35 championship material, and that's who we want. And what they meant by that is, of the 25ers that we're going to keep. If DJ was still here, they'd keep him. He fought Dominic Cruz, but he battled him. So did Benavidez. Benavidez went to a split decision with Dominic Cruz. So I think they're going to select a few that maybe can do it, a la Dodson or Lineker, compete, possibly be a champion. But a lot of them, I think, will just get cut. They won't renew their contract. So not cut like, you suck. Because sometimes they'll go, hey, you lost 4 in a row. We got to get rid of you. Some of them might go, well, I'm 2-2, I'm 3-1, but that would be, I think, what I read into was we just don't think at 35 you can compete, and we're shoring things up. I would just say that I would have not introduced women's 25 or women's 45 in an effort to keep men's 25. But I don't know. You guys want to just go into the daily debate, and then we'll revisit some wrestling?
Sure.
Let's do that right now, then. It's just on the tip of our tongue.
All right.
The daily debate question for today is, with speculation rampant of its imminent demise, why do you think the UFC flyweight division has struggled? Here are the 4 possible answers. It's just not entertaining. It wasn't promoted right. Fans wouldn't buy in. Not competitive enough. Dan Tom.
It's tough. I feel like the first and the last one, not competitive enough, not entertaining, are untrue and unfair. I think promotion, I could see most people probably going to that. But I will even argue that that's unfair. I feel like there's definitely things the promotion could have done. But at the end of the day, the promotion has responded to fans, even when the fans are asking for opposite of what the promotion is doing. Even Dana White is notoriously for bending that, and of course, people like to come at him as well. So I will say, even though I could totally see people saying organization here, I will come to their defense. I'll put it back on the fans. I feel like if the fans at the end of the day put their mind to anything and put their voices out there, vote with their dollars, things can change. But more importantly, I do think it was entertaining and competitive fights. And even you say what you will about the promotion, the people that were buying tickets, the numbers were noticeably different there. So I'll go ahead and put it on the fans.
So the fans wouldn't buy in?
They wouldn't buy in.
That's yours. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I agree with you on not entertaining. I was entertained.
Yep.
I slightly disagree on non-competitive enough, but I think I want to explore why you said it, because I think we may have different takes. Mine was between fans would not buy in and not competitive enough. But the reason I went with fans wouldn't buy in, just like you.
Okay.
But the reason I thought about the other one was because DJ made it that way.
That's a good
if
point.
That's what they meant. Because the division was fun.
Yeah,
you could pick a bunch of fights. Like you said, Pantoja, Jussier. Didn't matter. There was really, really some good fights over the years, so I didn't have a problem with that. But if what they meant was no one could take out DJ for so many years, and that's why it struggled, then that's why I was close to picking it. But eventually I went to fans wouldn't buy in because I think the numbers just reflected it.
I did not competitive enough, but for that reason, just at the top. The
DJ?
Division was competitive, but when you got your guy that went up to the championship fight, they just weren't competitive fights, and I think people couldn't get behind them.
All right. So let me say this. That's our daily debate for today, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team with the pause. Oh, sorry. The results, 579 voted. This is how it came in. 35% said not promoted right. 27% said not competitive enough. 21% said the fans wouldn't buy in. 17% said not entertaining. That's actually pretty balanced.
Yeah, it is. It's balanced.
But a lot of people put it on the promotion.
Okay.
All right. Now, now I forgot my thought. What were you saying?
Well, I was saying at the top,
competitive.
So, on what you're saying, why would they pick now when they just had the best fight ever in terms of it being compelling? Why would they pick now to dissolve it?
I have no idea.
Just because DJ left?
I was thinking
If
about
anything, that maybe balances things out the most. I would think that this is the one time where even a naysayer, the biggest naysayer, was going, man, that was cool. Are they going to run it back? Or, who's in the picture? And it strikes me as odd.
If you did one card that was all women's 125 and then one card that was all men's 125, wouldn't the men's fill up? I don't understand.
Me neither. I don't know. Confusing. All right. With that, maybe we should take our first break of the second hour. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back, and we'll go back to our wrestling talk. We want to hear your top 10 favorite wrestlers ever. No criteria.
They were kicked off the set of The Fast and the Furious for being too loud and too good looking. Once again, here's Gorgeous George and Goze.
Week 10 in fantasy football starts tonight, and Fantasy Sports Radio is helping you win. Listen to the best fantasy football experts analyze tonight's Panthers-Steelers game and all of this week's matchups from the fantasy football perspective or for any other interest you have in the game.
What does that laugh?
For any other interest you have in the game. Fucking gambling. I mean, I wonder why they're shying away from it. It's everywhere now. We're in Vegas, so we can openly talk about it. I can actually say, Dan and Goze, go bet. It's like, what, 30 meters away?
Mm-hmm. Meters.
It's funny. Or any other interest you may have in the game. Hear player and team projections to grow all of your sports investments on Fantasy Sports Radio, Series 210, XM87, streaming on your phone and at home, connected devices and speakers. Danny had to bring back the music. Yes. All right, let's talk to Showtime in Tennessee. What's up, Showtime? It's yo time.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Good.
Showtime.
You're not feeling well?
Man, I'm going to tell you this, man. I'm in Denver right now, man. Have any of you guys, Dan Tom, you ever had staph? I know you
I haven't had staph. I've had a ringworm and stuff like that though.
Okay,
not
so
full blown
no
staph. Yeah. I was able to catch before any infection got bad.
Man, I'm dealing with this MRSA shit, man, and I'm gonna tell you this, man. For somebody to fight with this shit, they gotta be a tough SOB, and I'm pretty tough when it comes to pain tolerance, but man, I'm walking like a fucking 80-year-old man right now, man.
Should you even be out, much less working?
Man, I had to go to the doctor and get a prescription. I called my doctor back home. Yeah, I got it. I got the antibiotics, but I just got them yesterday. But see, I had this before. I had it like under my arm, but I was like tripping when I was taking
the late Kevin
antibiotics.
Randleman?
It was under my armpit, but now I have it like on my right below my belly button, man. And, oh shit!
Damn.
You talking about some pain? Man, it feel like something eating me alive, man. I'm just thinking about when Kaylee fought that fight and they said he had staph, man. You got to be tough, buddy. You got seriously.
How do you get it on your belly button though? Are you slipping, sliding in truck stops?
Exactly. These truck stops have showers.
See, this what happened.
Stay away from those lot lizards,
When I had
Showtime.
when I had it the first time, I took my meds for 10 days, but I drank a couple of those days, so it may have not got out of my system all the way. But you don't have to worry about me drinking this time. I'm fucking smashing number water. I'm not drinking a beer. I'm not drinking nothing until I get through with this medication, man.
Dude,
I'm miserable.
Well, take care of yourself, man. That stuff's no joke. Don't play around for a second on that, man.
And I don't know if you heard what I said. No. The late Kevin Randleman, he had staph under his armpit.
Yeah.
After lunch, go Google that picture.
Oh yeah.
It's
after
gross.
lunch, yeah.
And how about some soap? That can help too.
Yeah. Hey guys,
you know I used to be addicted to soap.
Addicted to it?
Yeah. It's cool now though. I'm clean.
I use defense soap, by the way. I swear by that stuff for anybody listening to this. But not to hijack your call, Showtime, but we did something earlier on one of Showtime's calls that I want to bring back. Showtime, we'll do that game again, the hypothetical road trip game. You're going from Florida to California. You're stuck with hitching someone a ride. Okay, you have to pick between these two people: Kevin from Chicago or Colby Covington. Who are you taking? Who? Both of them need a ride from Florida to Chicago. They both need to hitch a ride. Who's the least bearable? You have to take one. You can't say no to both of them. Who's the most bearable in that situation? Who are you taking?
Kevin from Chicago, because if I have to have a gun with Kobe because he's a bad motherfucker. So I have to Kevin from Chicago. I think I can handle him if I got to get him out of here. But Kobe, I might have to stab him or something.
But Colby's got some money though. He's all doing videos with girls. You know, you tell me you wouldn't put up with just a couple inflammatory sentences and maybe get your meals comped along the way. He's probably going to be wanting some nice company. You're gonna be the guy. You're gonna be his ride. You're gonna be the right hand man. I don't know a lot about Kevin from Chicago, but does he have as much resources as Colby?
No, I don't think so. He's not an interim world champion that I know of.
You sure you don't?
Man, I don't know. Kobe has to do some explaining, man.
All right, do you want me to read off your list, or do you want to read off your list for wrestling? Because I got it right here.
What is it?
Junkyard Dog, The Godfather, Booker T, Mark Henry, and the Nation of Domination.
Ahmed Johnson.
Bobby Lashley.
Ahmed Johnson. Yes.
Am I close?
Well, you know the Junkyard Dog. But I'm gonna throw a kicker in there for you guys. Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling him.
You never
liked him,
though.
I wasn't impressed with his wrestling, and I just thought he turned into a cheap version of Sergeant Slaughter when he went like the American route, like the proud to be a
What about when they
USA
had the union and all that though?
Hey,
You weren't down with that?
I guess
That was
I forgot
awesome.
that.
That was
I don't
awesome
know.
group.
And then he
Hey,
did have
hey.
the 2x4, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
couldn't
Hey,
get into some of these dudes, man, as much.
I don't know what.
I got one more guy.
All right, who's that?
One more. Well, actually, two more. Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. Hard Times. You never saw me post that Hard Times video. I just laughed when I watched that Hard Times video by Dusty Rhodes. Man, that's classic, man.
I remember one time I thought he was great on the mic, but one time he was dumb because Ric Flair kept saying, whoever he was planning to wrestle, he would beat them and then steal their woman, and then their woman was going to ride Space Mountain, woo, and then Dusty Rhodes tried to top it by saying, I think for a moment he stole Ric Flair's lady or something. He goes, why would she want to ride Space Mountain when she can ride the whole park? And I was like, it felt a little flat.
Hey, I don't.
But
That's
anyway.
not too bad.
I mean, I pick a ride though, Colossus. I don't know.
But he literally took the best one in the park, though. I mean, you can't be Big Thunder Mountain.
That's true.
But so Ric Flair is Space Mountain.
Yeah.
Dusty Rhodes is every single ride in the whole park.
I think he's just saying that, like, this is my house. I'm the park.
I guess.
You're just a little
I
ride
was a
here.
little kid though.
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess. Yeah.
I was just like, what's it gonna be? Thinking Colossus or something. And all of a sudden he said that. I was like,
He wasn't the best looking guy though. He was more like the teacups and shit.
Do you have a list for real or no?
What's that now?
Do you have a list or no?
Yeah, it's 10, right?
10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Junkyard Dog, Kabuki, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair. I'm gonna throw some guys in that you guys probably not familiar with. Arn Anderson.
Oh, D'Lo Brown was awesome.
You can't possibly
Frog Splash.
tell Dan when he threw in Andy Kaufman. I was like, what?
Bad News Brown.
D'Lo
Who's
Brown.
next? David Arquette. I mean, all right, but all right. So
Pete Rose.
Yeah, who else?
Booker T.
I had him down.
Dude, nobody's giving left to.
Yeah, Booker T now.
Hey, no one's giving left to Goldust. I mean, that character. Think about it. That character was ahead of its time.
That was a dumb one. Him and the Red Rooster was stupid. The Red Rooster was as dumb as it gets, man. And then he would even go, woohoo, crow or whatever.
Who else?
His guy was like 15.
No, that's 8.
All right.
Yeah, that's 8. Goldberg. What's my man name, man? Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
And
Tony TNT Johnson.
SD Delivery Jones.
No. Damn, man, what's this guy name, man? I mean, I can't think. I was thinking of an old school wrestler, man. He used to be. Damn.
Mr. T.
Nah, man, I used to like Jimmy Snuka, man. But damn, that used to be my guy too, man.
Yeah.
See, I watched this with my my grandmother when I was a kid. Okay. I don't watch wrestling now, so that's why I had to go back to when I watched it.
Nobody said Ricky Steamboat, by the way.
He's on my thing.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. He was.
Are you just looking for names at this point?
All right.
These guys I like.
I hope you feel better, man.
Yeah.
We gotta move on. We had you on for 8 minutes.
Ricky Steamboat barely. I mean, Eddie Guerrero was awesome. Arn Anderson.
There's a lot
Chris
of
Jericho.
About 619.
Rick Rude.
Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, Rey Mysterio is dope.
The 619 was one of my favorite moves in the Hurricanrana. All right, let's take this call and then we'll go back to social media. This is Elvis from Anaheim.
Hey.
What's up, Elvis?
Oh, yeah, dig it. What's up, boys? It's been a while.
It has.
Yeah. How you been?
You guys are talking about Space Mountain. You know, Ric Flair was known as the 60-minute man. My wife calls me the 60-second man.
All right.
Woo! All right, you want my 10?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, no particular order. I went with The Undertaker just because of longevity and the WrestleMania streak.
Nice.
Okay.
The greatest heel of all time, Hot Rod Roddy Piper, and one of the nicest guys that we ever met.
Mm-hmm.
I went with Ricky Steamboat.
Oh, there you go.
Just because that WrestleMania 3 match was probably one of the greatest matches in history against Savage.
Not only that, he'd have those hour-long matches. He's one of the hour-long match guys with Ric Flair in the Starrcade, which was NWA. Sorry.
Yeah, night after night they'd have that, yes.
Yeah.
The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, just because that guy was a fat bastard, but he'd go an hour match. I don't know how, but he was not in the greatest shape, but he could last the whole match.
Yeah. And then after that, he'd have, what do you say, chili and beans with kings and queens.
I've wined and dined with king and queens, and I've slept in alleys and dined on Frank and Beans.
Yeah, Frank and Beans, that's right.
The only tag team I got, I think, is the greatest tag team, the Road Warriors. I thought they were great.
Oh, wow. There we go.
Wait, you can't count that, though?
Yeah. Well, all right. I mean, at this point, we're off the rails. But
yeah.
I was never that I was impressed with, hey, we're big, we're powerful, we have a gimmick. But I was never really impressed with them because I was more of a Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express type of guy where they are just high-flying, death-defying, you know what I mean? These guys were just like, let me get your hands on you, boom. You're like, I don't know. But all right, I mean, this is your list.
Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. I thought he was always underrated, underused, kind of, you know.
Didn't Macho Man have a rap song about Mr. Perfect, or was it about Lex Luger?
I don't know.
I thought it was about Hulk he was hating on.
I forget. It's just whichever one died, because I remember him rapping about a dead friend and Miss Elizabeth, and it got awkward.
Well,
like many of the wrestlers rapping did.
Wait, did Lex Luger pass away? No, Miss Elizabeth did, right?
Miss Elizabeth did, yeah.
Macho Man's got a macho alimony payment. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and the next one, Macho Man Randy Savage. I just thought his gimmick was great. He was 24/7 in character. I'm going old school on this one just because he carried the company so long. Was Bruno Sammartino? I mean, he was the go-to guy for 6-7 years. He held the title. I mean, come on.
That's what Mark Henry said when Mark Henry gave his list.
Hulkster, just because he started all this nonsense. And then of course I blame this man. I'm a T-shirt and jeans kind of guy, yet I wear a $5,000 Rolex on my wrist, and it's because of Ric Flair. I blame him.
Gotcha.
Woo!
Any honorable mentions?
Well, I mean, I really didn't go into it. The newer guys like Stone Cold and The Rock and the Attitude Era was so good. I mean, they're all clumped together. That was the late 90s.
Right, you're right. I don't see Cena as much. Yeah. All right, let me ask you guys this, and I'm not trying to bag. Elvis would often come over to the house, and then from there we'd go out, whether it was a party or whatever. This is back in the high school days. So you've all heard that I'm 9 years older than Goze. So when I was, we'll call it 16, I guess, as a junior, or 17 as a senior, that would make Goze 7 or 8. And Goze and Johnson, because I was always running behind, Johnson was always punctual. And by the time I got out, these two were having Iron Man matches. But because Goze was small at the time, he was a kid, he could actually jump off the couch and deliver elbows and kicks, and then Johnson had to be careful with the stuff that, any of the blow. He couldn't actually throw a full-blown elbow or anything like that. But how long were you guys' matches? I mean, I remember
about 30
you were
minutes.
dripping sweat. Johnson had to, refresh himself.
We were breaking shit. Yeah, dude, they were pretty bad.
30 minutes?
At least, yeah.
Wow. It was hilarious, man. I'd come out like, all right, I'm ready. And he'd go, hold on a second. He'd have to go and comb his hair again because he was just literally.
He would let me do anything. So, I remember one time his shoe fell off, so I picked up the shoe and started hitting him with it. I grabbed one of Dad's belts and beat him with it one time.
Like a
there were no rules.
Match?
Yeah.
Wow.
Looking back, there were a lot of weird signs there. But, yeah, he would let me beat the shit out of him, and there were no rules. But, obviously, he couldn't do too much to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a Mexican death match, I think it was. I don't know.
a Peruvian death match, we should call it.
Yeah, remember the strap always like a Texas strap match or the Fiji the strap is different because of ethnicity. It never made sense to me,
Well, I know Snuka, I think with the Magnificent Morocco had
a
Fijian
great
strap match or something like that. In fact, the other day I was coursing through YouTube, and somebody had sent me, hey, check out this fight. And it had to do with it was in Australia, and it looked like, I mean, it was like some bouncers had a problem with some dudes, and the fight literally lasted like 3 minutes because it was everywhere. There was a lot of dudes moving parts. So as soon as it finished, and I examined it from all angles, the next fight started, and this one had to do with, it looked like a wedding, and it was Hispanic guys. They were all beating up on this one dude, right? Jesus. And some other guys were in a car going, man, he goes, should I get involved? No, man, stay out. It's their business, blah, blah, blah. And so the dude that was getting beat up, his homies came, and they took off their belts and started whacking the other dudes. The other dudes were bigger. And the other dudes looked like they were in the wedding because they were all dressed with black pants and white. So you could tell they were very formal, but all kind of looked alike. And, dude, they actually bailed out their buddy and probably wound up kicking the other guys out because the other guys were bleeding.
They got hit that many times without running?
Yeah, dude. So, they'd hit, and they were quicker, and they were smaller. Boom, boom. I'm going to see if I can find it. And the other guys were trying to react, and then when they would turn, like, I'm going to get you, then boom, this guy would whack me, I'm going to get you, boom. But, yeah, a couple of them were bloody, and you could tell at the end, even though that guy got jumped, the other guys were walking away going, what's up now, you know? Man. It was a really, really good fight, and then everyone just kind of took off.
They don't play at the bouquet toss at Mexican weddings, do they?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, this was something else. Johnson, always great to hear you. Sammy the Squid's.
I think that was at Sammy the Squid's wedding.
I was sweating a lot at Sammy the Squid's wedding, that's for sure.
Were. I was too. I was about to get thrown out because of this idiot. Wouldn't stop cracking jokes.
All right, Johnson. Good to hear from you, buddy. Are you going to the Modern Day game tomorrow?
All right, boys. Take care. Huh?
You going to the Modern Day game tomorrow?
Nah, I got to work.
Well, you usually used to go to all of them. What happened?
I just got bills. Instant family.
I suppose, but I mean, they don't play every day of the week.
True. But yeah, weekends is my money. That's my money maker.
Do people ask to take pictures with you when you do show up and go, hey, look, everybody, the only guy here who has to pay bills?
All right, man, we got to let you go. We got to go. See you, buddy.
All right, boys. Take care.
Later.
Bye. See ya.
All right, I love that guy. Mike Johnson, man, one of my oldest friends from high school. All right, we got to take our last break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goze.
Shout out to the guys from Busted Open. They're on 9 Eastern, 9 in the morning Eastern every day with a replay at noon Eastern. Dave LaGreca, along with Bully Ray, Mark Henry, and occasionally Tommy Dreamer. Check out their show, man. We kind of borrowed a little segment from them, and they were talking about their top 10 wrestlers of all time. We're just kind of going with our favorite list. They went a little bit more stricter with the criteria. Here's some from the chat. Jay Zen, he says Hogan, Macho, Bundy, Ultimate Warrior, Legion of Doom, Bushwhackers, Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, Andre the Giant, and then I would say all of them were pretty good, except Bushwhackers was just like, what were they? You know, he could say the same thing to me for Godfather, but I didn't put the Godfather here.
Remember Bundy?
Yeah, Bundy. Are there any more? Let's see here.
Ultimate. Oh, sorry. Go
Don Piccolo, the Ultimate Warrior, Val Venus, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Razor Ramon, Brutus the Barber, Beefcake. Hey, I remember him.
Yeah, it's another school name.
Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, the Rockers, Demolition, the Killer Bees, and I think that covers our chat. So
let me jump
take
over
it
to Twitter.
away, Dan Tom. Yeah,
sure, I'm going to jump over to Twitter, but real quick, just parlaying this bit in MMA talk. I remember being in like the 90s golden era, and someone, friends coming over to me, it felt like Pride. I don't know about you guys, like it felt like Pride, but ECW. It felt like the Pride version of the World Wrestling. I had a buddy going, "Yo, bro, this guy Tommy Dreamer, ECW, Rob Van Dam. You got no idea, bro, no idea." And like people that were in the ECW would let you know about ECW. I remember, I love that era. DJ Tony hit us up in the chat and on Twitter. I'm just going to read his top 10 list. Nikita Koloff at number 1, Sting at number 2, Goldberg at number 3, Kevin Nash at number 4, The Great Muta at number 5, Rob Van Dam at number 6. There it is. Yep, there it goes. Number 7, Ric Flair. Tito Santana at number 8 for DJ Tony.
Oh, yeah, great fights.
And number 9, Bret Hart. And number 10, solid name, Shawn Michaels for DJ Tony. Tom Tierney, this is, of course, on Twitter at MMAjunkie Radio. Uncle Chunk MMA has number 10, Vader. I know. A guy named Uncle Chunk would have Vader. No, I support him on that. Vader needs to get some love there. Solid list here. Number 9, Diamond Dallas Page. I don't think anybody said him, which was surprising. He was a big character, doing well now. 8, Sting. Number 7, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. Much love there, Tom. Number 6, Brock Lesnar. He's co-signing with what George said earlier. Number 5, CM Punk. I haven't seen him, ironically enough, for this being an MMA show. We're talking about wrestling.
Calling fights now for Cage Fury.
Real? Oh, wow.
Fight Pass.
Good for him. I think that's going to that's
I was going to say Diamond Dallas Page, but I thought it was a little bit of a stretch.
Shawn Michaels, number 4. Number 3, Kurt Angle. Number 2, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Number 1, Ric Flair. And just a couple more if we have time, real quick. Gabe Killian, at Gabe Killian MMA, had HBK, Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart, Ahmed Johnson. Hey, Ahmed Johnson. Waylon Mercy, and the Smoking Guns.
Martin Stabilo, Hitman, Stone Cold, HBK, The Rock, Undertaker, Mr. Hogan, Mr. Perfect, sorry, Hogan, Piper, Sting, Macho Man, Ryan Gerard, Ric Flair, Sting, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, The Rock, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and Alondra Blaze. I think that's it. Lord Alfred Hayes got a shout out. I remember him. Sergeant Slaughter got a shout out. Bobby the Brain Heenan. We got to get out of here. Hopefully you enjoyed today's show. Thanks to Paul Felder for his time. I think Phil Davis will get rerouted till tomorrow. Chidi and Jaquani will be co-hosting tomorrow's show, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more. So for Danny and Dan and Goze, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.